I had a couple people asking me if I was going to still go live tonight, and I told them, "You bet your sweet ass I am," because that is what I do. Dedicated to the craft, dedicated to the game, and dedicated to being here on Recher Reacts with you. I am Jay Recher. Hope everybody is having a wonderful end of their Saturday night and the start to their Sunday morning. If you're still up, um, you're probably drinking something or smoking something or just chilling, can't get to sleep. And listen, we'll talk all things sports here with you. I always want you to follow me on all social media platforms: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, everywhere. I am around. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns there at the bottom of the screen, and I'll do my best to answer them here on the program. Head on over to my YouTube page if you've never been there before, youtube.com/at jretcher10. Every like and subscription definitely helps. So head on over there and become part of the conversation, man. We are still up here. It is a late one, and I appreciate everybody for tuning in tonight. We will talk about the USF matchup with the Miami Hurricanes and where do the South Florida Bulls go from here. It wasn't pretty. It was ugly. And I stayed the whole game and went to the press conference. And no, and as our friend here says, do I ever sleep? No, I don't ever sleep. And I do have to be at Raymond James Stadium tomorrow around 10:30, 11 o'clock for the game tomorrow, Bucs and Broncos. Final review, final preview of that a little bit later on here on the program as well. Also, want to tell you about the one college football team I got absolutely dead wrong, like not even close. Uh, I swore that this one team was going to win the conference, and it gets worse every single time. Every single time I even like try to peer around the corner and see what the hell this team's doing, it just keeps getting worse and worse. So we'll get to that here momentarily, and then also we'll talk about Washington Nationals infielder CJ Abrams and just a rough story out of the nation's capital as this young man was sent down to the minor leagues for pulling an all nighter. And it's not the same kind of pulling an all nighter that you did with your friends during the summer. Not good at all. But with all eyes on him, we have to see how he responds and where he goes from here. God fearing Gator, what's up? Disappointing loss tonight. I think they'll bounce back, and let's get right into it. Again, follow me on all social media platforms, and if you did, you saw that I was at Raymond James Stadium tonight for the USF matchup with Miami, a 50-15 loss. And I got to be honest with you guys. I was there in Alabama when USF lost that game, and these two games were not the same. That game going into the fourth quarter, you really felt like USF had a chance. And there were so many things that went in the way or in the favor of USF in that game. 3 turnovers, the just incredible job getting to the quarterback. That wasn't the same thing tonight. To me, Miami's a better team than Alabama, regardless of what the rankings say. But it never seemed like at any point in this game that Miami wasn't in control, that they didn't at least have, the USF Bulls, even when they didn't have the lead, that they didn't have them within striking distance. And it all starts with Cam Ward. That guy is incredible. And I know he's approaching 50 career starts in college, but we've seen guys play a bunch of games in college, and you know, it doesn't always mean that they're good. Sometimes it means quite the opposite. It's like, all right, well, especially now with the COVID year, maybe they're just not good enough for the NFL. I don't see that with Cam Ward. 24 of 34 tonight for 404 yards and 3 touchdowns. The interception wasn't even really an interception. The receiver pretty much threw the ball to USF. I thought that was kind of maybe they should probably go back and change that to a fumble because I don't know how you could put that on Cam Ward. He ran 5 times for 43 yards. This kid is poised in the pocket. He makes all the right decisions. He runs when you give it to him. He can still make throws when he gets outside the pocket. And one of the greatest plays of the night had nothing to do with them scoring 50 points. There was a play when he was circling out to his left and he pitched the ball to his running back and he ran for a first down. After review, it said that Cam Ward had his knee down, but my goodness, what an incredible play. And I'm with I'm with you, Gator. I hate Miami. Listen, they played their ass off. They're easily one of the best teams in the country. But that kid, Cam Ward, very, very impressive. And that's why, I mean, you look at the difference between these two games. Listen, Jalen Milroe's a hell of a quarterback, hell of an athlete, but he didn't do to the USF defense what Cam Ward did tonight. Under control the entire time. Damian Martinez obviously helps out with 3 running touchdowns. He only ran for 31 yards. But the way that Cam Ward was able to distribute the football, I mean, impressive. Impressive. USF unable to run the football tonight. Didn't see much from Kelly Joyner. He did run the ball 6 times for 31 yards. Byram 14 for 27. Naquan Wright 6 for 11. Teron Keith ran the ball 3 times for 1 yard. His big contribution to the offense today was that 64-yard screenplay on 3rd down deep into USF territory. And you're thinking, wow, that's the way to answer. That's the way to respond to some of the rough plays that we saw tonight for USF. The defense just really, really struggled. Sean Atkins, really, really good sign. 11 catches for 125 yards there. And I thought Byram threw the football pretty well as well. But that's, I mean, Nico Gramatica, 2 field goals, 50 yards. The only, is my mic cut out? Is my mic still on, Gator? I'm still on. Let's hear it real quick. I don't want to, let's see it here. There you go. Let's hear it real quick. I can hear myself right there. Fine. All right. We're good again. All right. So I think that's the thing too, guys, is now that we're on, we're good. Where does USF go from here? And they have a matchup next week against Tulane. And when you travel there to Louisiana, it doesn't get easier. It's a noon kickoff there in New Orleans. And USF has to put this behind them. Gator, I think you're messed up now because I'm listening on YouTube right now. I'm listening on YouTube right now. Gator, I think you're messed up. Yeah, see? It's on you, Gator. I think you messed it up. You're freaking me out here, buddy. I'm trying to make sure that everybody can hear me. All right. But as I was saying, where does USF go from here? They have to put this game behind them. It was ugly. 50-15. There cannot be a hangover next week. It is going to be a tall task, a noon start there in Louisiana against Tulane, your first conference matchup. You cannot let what happened tonight at Raymond James Stadium carry over to next week. You have to put this game behind you, and you got to focus full steam ahead on what's in front of you. Now, Byron Brown leaving that game tonight, not good. From all accounts, we're hearing from Alex Golesh, he should be okay for next Saturday, but he didn't speak to the media after the game tonight, which is not something that you see very often. Tough games, whether he gets banged up, you usually hear from Byron Brown after the game. We didn't tonight because he was getting treatment. That's something that definitely needs to be fixed because you saw when Bryce Archie went in there, and it's not that Bryce isn't a good quarterback, but he's a different quarterback. He doesn't give you that same kind of running threat that Byron Brown does. And the offense does need to change. So USF would be in big trouble if Byron Brown was not ready to go next Saturday. Next up, they got to find a pass rush. I thought the pass rush was pretty good through the first 3 games, but not nearly good enough tonight against Cam Ward. He was unbothered all night long. And that was something that I stated, if you listen to Recher Reacts last night, one of the things that USF had to do was get in Cam Ward's face early and often, and he had a very, very easy time back there for the Hurricanes. That has to change when you get to conference play. Because as you saw tonight, that secondary really struggled. Really struggled. I mean, you have to work in concert, right? The pass rush has to help out the secondary and vice versa. But that secondary really, really had a tough time with those Miami receivers. It was an easy 50. It was an easy 50 points today. Even though, and people will say, "Oh, Miami didn't run the football so well." They weren't committed to the run. Why did they need to be committed to the run? They were having ease throwing the football. And then when they had to run near the goal line, as I mentioned, 3 touchdowns for Martinez. So that's got to change. They have to be better. They have skills. They have some good players. Don't get me wrong. There are some really good players on this USF team. And one thing that I hope they do carry over is the play of Sean Atkins. I really hope, there's a lot of negative, right? There's a lot of things that you want to push. There's a lot of things that you want to put behind you. But if you want to look at one thing that was really good tonight, it was Byron Brown and Sean Atkins. And that chemistry was fantastic. A 100-yard game for Sean Atkins, his fourth as a member of the USF Bulls. That was another thing that I said last night needed to happen. He's a stud. I'm with you, God-fearing Gator. Stud. Tough catches, gets those extra yards, and he even threw a touchdown pass tonight to Byron Brown. Heck of a play call there by the Bulls. But Sean Atkins has to continue being one of those pivotal parts of the offense going forward. We got to see more from these other guys. Hardiman seems like a guy that can make some big plays. I hope they get him more involved in the offense. Michael Brown Stevens, it's just too many times with USF with this offense. We see their wideouts with one catch for 9 yards, one catch for 12 yards. It's one thing when you're spreading the football around because you have a lot of weapons and you're moving the football in the air, but you're not seeing that. Who is that second go-to option through the air behind Sean Atkins? I still think that USF is looking for that guy, another guy to step up. The running game's got to get back on track next week. Not good enough from anybody. Teron Keith, Naquan Wright, Kelly Joyner, even Byron Brown himself. That has to improve. And then finally, the kicking situation. Nico Gramatica, the first USF kicker ever to have two 50-plus yard field goals in the same game. John Cannon kicks a field goal, makes it, and then he misses another one. And him missing that field goal, him missing that 31-yard field goal tonight, right at the end of the first half, took all of the wind out of the sails of not just this USF football team, but the crowd at Raymond James Stadium. Everybody knew that the Bulls were getting the ball to start the second half, but they also knew that Miami was going to put up more points. And every single time that you missed an opportunity to put points on the board, it was going to come back to haunt you. Too many times this team has settled for 3 instead of getting 7. And then if you do settle for 3, you got to make those kicks. And it hurts so bad because you saw Nico make those 2 long kicks earlier on in the game. And a fair question from Bulls fans out there, you got a guy that's making 50-yard field goals, and then this guy can't make a 31-yarder? Kind of doesn't make sense, even though he's a senior and Nico's a freshman, and I get it. And Alex Golesh said after the game, I asked him the question. I said, Coach, take me through the field goal situation and the kickers, and he says, nothing's going to change. Nico Gramatica is going to be the guy for the long kicks, but John Cannon is still our guy. Hey, I get it. I understand you want to stay with your guy. He's been your guy. And before tonight, he really didn't give you much of a reason not to have him in there. And I know he missed a kick against Alabama. It was into the wind. No guarantee that Nico would have even made that one. But you have a guy that broke a school record. You have a guy that is already a fan favorite because, A, he's a Gramatica. We know the guy. We know his dad. We know his whole family. And B, he's from here. He's from the Tampa Bay area. We feel like it seems like a lot of people feel like Nico is the kicker of the future, and he hasn't proven that he's not ready for the moment. So I get that Coach Golesh is going to go back to the way it was, but what happens if Cannon misses another kick next week when you know you have an absolute phenom on the bench? This Bulls team, they're going to play some tight games in the conference, and every single one of those points is going to be valuable. So I look at a couple things. I look at the health of Byron Brown. It's paramount. He has to be healthy next Saturday at noon against Tulane. I look at the running back. I look at the running game getting back on track. So important. Wide receivers that need to step up after Sean Atkins. There needs to be a second viable receiver stepping up behind 38. The pass rush needs to improve. You got to find a way to get to the quarterback. And then the secondary, The secondary has to be better. Those guys, whether it's tackling in space, whether it's covering these guys one-on-one, when you get that man-on-man assignment, the secondary has to improve. And then finally, the kicking game. Got to keep an eye on that. Whatever happens with Grammatica or Cannon, there has to be a short leash for Cannon. I know he's your guy. I know he's a senior. You have a lot of faith. You have a lot of trust in him. But Nico Grammatica, once you turn the reins over to him, he's not giving them back until he gets drafted into the NFL or he signs with an NFL team. Because what we saw tonight is that add another Grammatica to the list. That kid is going to be playing on Sunday. No doubt about it. All right, follow me on all social media platforms at Recher, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere, and I want to continue to hear from you guys. Feel free, questions, comments, concerns, leave them there at the bottom of the screen. Like and subscribe on YouTube. All right, let me tell you about one team that I got absolutely wrong, dead wrong. I cannot believe how bad that NC State is. I thought Florida State would regress. I thought Clemson would struggle because they really have a tough time of like getting up with, getting like being in our time in 2024. They don't believe in the transfer portal. Offensively, I still thought they needed a lot to improve on. And then I don't think anybody, I don't want to say anybody, I don't think a lot of people saw Miami being as good as they are. And after the thrashing of Florida and now the whooping of USF, they're 4-0, but they've yet to play an ACC game. But the NC State Wolfpack, they beat Western Carolina 38-21 in the opener. And Western Carolina was winning a good chunk of that game. Tennessee, they got absolutely mauled 51-10. Wasn't really appealing last week, and when you win 30-20 against Louisiana Tech. And then the game today against Clemson, 59-35. You're losing 45-7 at the half. This is probably one of the worst. This is probably the biggest things I've gotten wrong since I started working in sports radio. I was dead wrong. They can't stop anybody. I thought McCall coming over from Coastal was going to be a big difference. He didn't play today. Just like, oh my gosh, they are so bad. They have a much better chance, NC State does, to finish last in the conference than first. They're going to be in the bottom half. They're going to be battling it out with Florida State. They are terrible. I put on that game for about 5 minutes today, and I just could not believe what I saw. I know they scored 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. That doesn't matter. It really doesn't, because by then the game was over. It was 59-14. 59-14. What in the blue hell is wrong with you? I don't know, but there's something wrong with me too. I don't know. This is awful. Absolutely terrible. Yeah, that's the last time I picked the Wolfpack, that's for sure. All right. I want to talk about this here on the program. And that is what happened with Washington Nationals young all-star infielder CJ Abrams. So Abrams, the 23-year-old, made the All-Star game this year. Incredible first half for the Nats. And we know the Nationals are one of the worst teams in the National League, but there's a lot of good young players there, and CJ Abrams is one of them. But after seeing this story, it just makes you shake your head. 23 years young, and on Friday night, or early in the morning, Friday rather, he stayed out all night long at a Chicago area casino, leaving only hours before a Friday day game against the Cubs. This is what sources tell ESPN's Jesse Rogers, and I saw it from CHGO very early today. And you think about this kid, and he's really struggled again in the second half. Second half, he's been batting 203. Defense has just been bad throughout the entire season. He's got the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he's sent down to the minor league complex at West Palm, and this is where the A ball, the rookie ball is, and where they do the spring training. And you think about what is going on between the ears of CJ Abrams, young kid, all this money, former first round pick, number 6 overall from the San Diego Padres. He, as well as a bunch of other prospects, went over to the Nationals in that trade for Juan Soto. And for Abrams, all eyes are going to be on this kid from here on out. You're a shortstop. You're a guy that the team looks to as a leader, even at the young age of 23 years old. And you're an all-star. So you're one of the best guys on the team. But this is a pivotal moment in CJ Abrams' career and his life. Because when you're this young, the decisions that you make could kind of set in motion what the next 20 years of your life is going to look like. Things happen. I'm not going to sit here and badmouth the kid and say you fucked up and you're irresponsible, you're a bad person. I'm not going that far. But what he has to realize is that for the rest of his career, people are going to always be aware of this situation. This is something that's going to be a black eye on his entire career. People are always going to remember that the same year that you made the All-Star game as a 23-year-old shortstop, you got sent down before the end of the season because you stayed out all night at a casino in Chicago. He's going to have to live with that. It happens. My thing is, what happens from here? How does he respond? He has got to be so embarrassed about this situation. But it's not the end all be all. Luckily for him, something like this, something that is a stain on his career, outside of him getting sent down, nobody was hurt in this situation. He's okay. He still has his health. He can still ball. He struggled in the second half of the season, but Washington's not going to give up on him. I love situations like this because, and not situations like that. I'm not saying I love this situation because I'm glad that something bad happened to this kid, but I love to see these opportunities for young people to make up for some of the things that they did that set them back. Because that's what people are really made of. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see guys that you're great at everything. You're the number 1 overall pick. You're a champion. Like, how do you know? Like, how do you know somebody's character if everything always works out well for them? Show me a guy that got knocked down. Of course, if it's of his own volition, it's something that he did. But how does that kid respond? That's what I want to see. I want to see CJ Abrams get in the gym. I want to see him get in the cage. I want to see him work on his ground balls. And I want to see that kid work his ass off. So when he comes back for spring training, he's one of the best young shortstops in baseball. We should be hearing about him in the same conversation of guys like Bobby Witt Jr. All eyes are on CJ Abrams now. And I can't wait to see how he responds. And if he doesn't respond, then, hey, he probably wasn't built to have a long career in the major leagues. So be it. But this is an opportunity, CJ, with all the eyes of the baseball world on you. Don't let this define you. Hit rock bottom and climb your way out of that hole and prove to everybody why you were drafted so high and why they made the right decision by, selecting you for the All-Star game this year. I can't wait. I hope it works out for him. Because if that's the worst thing that he did in his career, listen, people have done a lot worse and have come back from that. I'm curious. I hope he comes back. I hope he rights this wrong, because then I think a lot more people will be CJ Abrams fans, even outside of the nation's capital. All right. Last thing I want to mention or talk about today is a preview of Buccaneers and Broncos, 1:00 tomorrow at Raymond James Stadium. I will be there. Late night at Ray J tonight, early morning at Ray J tomorrow. And shout out to my guy, Joey Knight, who writes for the Tampa Bay Times. He's been dealing with a lot of health issues, undergoing chemo. My thoughts and prayers, my everything goes out to Joey. Make sure you follow him, TB Times_Bulls. He's out there doing yeoman's work. I hope he hit his deadline. He was telling me 12:45. But he asked me, he's like, well, are you doing your podcast tonight? Are you going to be here tomorrow? I said, yup. And he just kind of shook his head. That's what you got to do, man. You got to grind. You got to be willing to go that extra mile. And if anybody's listening right now and you're lacking motivation, you're having a rough day, shit's going wrong in your life, just keep pushing. Keep finding ways to reinvent yourself and to distinguish yourself from your peers and your coworkers and your colleagues, and continue to put your best foot forward and be a good freaking person and put out good vibes, man. I'm telling you, I'm a firm believer in good things happen to good people. Great things happen to great people. If you're here watching me, you're probably a good person, so I appreciate you. But shout out to my guy Joey Knight, and yeah, here with you guys, putting out this content and trying to continue to grow my brand and to get my name out there, man, whether it's in the Tampa Bay area or not. But Eric Moreno here. Jay, would you be surprised if the Bucs win 31-10 tomorrow? Eric, no, I would not. I think all week long we've been trying to get into a situation. I think everybody on DAE except for Pat Donovan, and I was really kind of taking in what Pat was saying. We're hoping that the Buccaneers don't take the Denver Broncos lightly. 2-0, right? The Bucs are looking to make it 3-0. We know going up against a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix, uh, we know that the kid's got talent, but if Todd Bowles really can dial it up and there's enough defensive players there that aren't banged up, they can do the job. And I think in the beginning of this week, myself in particular, it was like, it's going to be closer than you think. And I heard Pat say this, I think it was Thursday or Friday, like, yeah, I know, but not really worried about the Bucs taking this team lightly. Not really worried about what Denver can bring to the table, because as much as their defensive secondary are pretty good, I'm not really too concerned about their pass rush. I'm not really concerned about their offensive weapons. They traded Jerry Jeudy in the offseason. So, yeah, I'm not too concerned with this game. Do I think that the Buccaneers are going to look past these guys and start getting ready for Philadelphia a week early? No. No. But when you look at the talent and when you look at the coaching, I think that's the big thing. It's the talent, it's the coaching, and it's the leadership. When you have a better team on paper, obviously that's a great start, but it doesn't mean anything unless you go out there and you execute. But you have the coaching, and it's not just a guy like Todd Bowles, who's not going to let his team rest on their laurels. He's not going to let them be complacent. He's going to have those guys ready to go. I love the message from Todd early on in the season, talking about high aspirations and think about going to the Super Bowl. And like, that should be your goal. Set your goals high. But also his concurrent messages after that saying every day, you got to focus on every day, one game at a time. Don't just be happy being 2-0. Keep pushing, keep pushing. And then, of course, his offensive coordinator in Liam Cohen. I think that guy is just, he's getting better and better. Some of the play calls that he had against Detroit, masterful. The touchdown to Chris Godwin, it's something that he was setting up in week one. And then also some of that eye candy, Bucky Irving looking like he was going out for a screen, Chris Godwin wide open. You can have great quarterback play. You can have great receivers, great playmakers all over the field. But, man, when you have coaches that can put your players in a position to succeed, where the plays that they call enable your guys to just have an easier go of it, that's special. That's what you see from Sean McVay and Shanahan, and you're seeing that with Liam Cohen too. And then the leaders, Mike Evans, Levante David, Baker Mayfield, that's just a few of the names. They're not going to let this team go into this game thinking that they've got it figured out. It's just not going to happen. They understand that they have to bring their A game regardless of the competition. If we didn't get a lot of great football from Jeff Scott, but we did get one of my favorite quotes in all of sports. It does not matter. It's not about who we play, WHO. It's about how we play, HOW. That is correct. Some of the injury updates for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Vita Vea, Cameron Johnson downgraded to out today, so they will not play tomorrow against Denver. Bucs elevated defensive lineman Mike Green, and for the first time this year, Sterling Shepard. So good that the veteran wideout will see some action. The Bucs did sign CJ Brewer from the practice squad. Keenan Isaac waived to make room. That was yesterday. But you look at some of these other guys that won't be in there. Luke Gedeke out. Kalijah Cansey out. Antoine Winfield Jr. out. So that's 5 guys out. But it looks like Josh Hayes should be back too. William Golston will be in there, as well as Levante David and Logan Hall and Rashad White too. Linebacker Baron Browning and safety JL Skinner out for the Denver Broncos as well. And we know that McGlinchey, their tackle, won't be in there either. So I think, again, when you look at those three things, the talent, when you look at the coaching, and when you look at the veteran leadership, uh, I think USF wins this game. I thought it was going to be closer, but the more and more I think about it, I'm thinking by like 20, 25 points. I think the Buccaneers win this game like 34-13 or something like that. And then the Buccaneers 3-0 going into next week's matchup with the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, that's going to wrap it up for me. Again, follow me on all social media platforms: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, and like and subscribe on YouTube. Every single one of those likes and subscriptions definitely do help. Tough one for USF. Hopefully, the Bulls can, or excuse me, the Bucs can win one tomorrow, so Ray J can end the weekend with a win. That'll wrap it up for me. I'll be back tomorrow night talking about that Buccaneers victory, hopefully victory, against the Broncos and all things NFL tomorrow night, right here on Recher Reacts. Peace out, everybody.